Wow, guys! I wanted to give my commentary on the game 3 last night with Dallas Mavericks and Boston Celtics. I'm shocked. Um, Lack of a better term, I'm just shocked. I wish there was another way to express the way I feel. Going into the game, when I saw that Kristaps Porzingis was going to be out, and then knowing that Boston was playing at Dallas, I knew that the crowd was going to be behind Dallas. The fact that Dallas was down 0-2, I thought they would come out with a sense of desperation, which they did. So I factored in the fact that they're 0-2, the fact that Dallas is 0-2, the fact that they're playing at home, and Kristaps Porzingis is out. I thought that this was a prime opportunity for Dallas to get a game in, to win their first game in this series. I didn't even think they would be down 3-0. I knew the game would be close, but I thought that Luka and Kyrie somehow, some way behind the crowd, enthusiasm and energy, and I thought that the role players would play better at home for Dallas. And with an amalgamation of all the things that I just said, I thought that all those things collectively put together would render Dallas the advantage in coming up with a W. But that didn't happen. I gotta tip my hat off to Boston. I'm not a Boston Celtics fan or a Dallas fan. I just want to see a good series. And to be honest with you guys, the narrative, the best narrative to me would be to see Kyrie Irving win a championship on his classic road to redemption, so to speak, after going through the things that he's gone through in the past couple of seasons, and the way the media has broken him down and trying to paint a narrative of a person who doesn't like basketball, who's people have basically come up with their own descriptions of Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie Irving. And I thought that if I was going to root for a team, it would be Dallas, only because the narrative of them winning the championship would be better, because Kyrie being on their team, Luka getting his first championship, and so on and so forth. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. Going into the series, I picked Dallas because I looked at their momentum from how they beat Minnesota and the dominance of Luka Doncic. But Boston is a beast. Their defense, I know Minnesota was credited with being like one of the top defensive teams in the NBA, if not the top defensive team in the NBA. And we saw what Dallas and Kyrie did to that defensive team in Minnesota. They eviscerated Minnesota Timberwolves. But watching the Boston Celtics and Dallas, I'm starting to see that every shot that Dallas takes is contested. It's difficult. I didn't see that happening in the Minnesota series. And yes, Minnesota has a good defensive team. I think collectively their team defense is good. But the difference between Minnesota Timberwolves and the Boston Celtics is that not only is Boston Celtics team defense good, their individual perimeter defense is good. Jaylen Brown, top defense. He's a great wing defender. Drew Holiday, do I need to even say anything about him? He's a monster on the defensive end. I would argue and say he's probably the top defensive point guard in the NBA. You have Devin White, I think that's his first name, but Devin White, I think so. White, he's a good defender. Tatum, he's a decent defender. So the reason, and I didn't think about this going into this series, I thought more with my emotions than I did with logic. But then I had logic in there too, because I just felt that the amount of threes that Boston took, coupled with the fact that Luka Doncic and Kyrie can get their shots off anytime they wanted to, and the health factor of Kristaps Porzingis being questionable, all those things made me believe that Dallas would win the series. I didn't think that Dallas was going to sweep Boston or anything, but I thought it would go 6 or 7. And I've been totally wrong, and I can admit that I didn't see this coming. Boston is a great team. I know they went through a lot during the regular season. You know, they would lose games that they weren't supposed to lose. They would blow big leads, and people were concerned about that. They said, you know, how can this team in a weaker East, you know, go through the things they went through, and then expect to come to the play against the West, which is a much stronger league, much stronger conference, and win. They're winning. People asked how that can happen. Well, it's happening. People had a lot of questions, but it's happening right now. And going through the gauntlet in the Western Conference, to me, it's a disadvantage because, yeah, you may be battle tested, but look at all the teams that Dallas had to beat just to get here, just to get to the finals. The road to the finals, this is not even arguable. Boston had an easier road. They just did. Most of the teams they played were depleted due to injuries, and then it happens, but they still beat the teams that they had to beat. Their opposition didn't pose a threat. To me, Dallas getting into the finals was their final. Them beating Minnesota was like their finals. Being Western Conference champions was like their championship. And I think Boston was just sitting back, licking their chops, like, okay, we're well rested. We're going to annihilate this team. And I didn't know how great Boston was. I mean, I kept up with them, but I don't care what you do in the regular season. There have been many times regular season teams had great records, and when it came down to the playoffs and playoff basketball, you know, they completely unravel. Boston is a great team. They are. They're solid in every facet. Everybody can shoot. They don't have any weak points. None. They have a total team. They don't have one main guy. And which makes me segue into my next point with this Jason Tatum talk and Jaylen Brown talk. Look, Jason Tatum almost single-handedly lost that game for Boston last night. You say why? His numbers were good. I don't give a damn about his numbers. I watched the game and I go with what my eye sees. His 31 points is misleading. He's too one-dimensional. If he can't get by you, he's going to try to do the Erkin jerk game and sidestep shooter three. Sidestep shooter three. Now, let me remind you guys, he's much taller. Now, not much taller, but he's significantly taller than Jaylen Brown. You can see it on the television. They're not the same height. I think Jaylen Brown may be 6'5", 6'6" on a good day. And Jaylen Brown is about 6'5", 6'6". And Tatum looks like he's every bit 6'9", 6'8", 6'9". He's tall. He's taller than Jaylen Brown. So Jaylen Brown being a little bit shorter, you would think has the disadvantage because according to sports pundits and according to anyone who watches the game, you can see with your own eyes, Jason Tatum seems to be a little bit more fluid with the basketball. He seems to have a better handle. So you would think, okay, guys, taller, 6'9", better handle, okay, he'll be able to get his own shot easily. But that's not what I'm seeing. Jason Tatum is not that guy. If they win, which it seems like they're going to win because they're up 3-0, if they win the finals, if they win the NBA championship, I think that we should stop the talk about Jason Tatum being the best player on the team. Now, you can say it's a tie. At best, you can say it's a tie. But I'm not going to say that they're both, that it's 1A, 1B. Just like Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. They're both good, but you know that the go-to guy is Luka. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both good. But when it comes down to like timely buckets and efficiency and explosiveness and that dog mentality, I'm going to destroy you, it's Jaylen Brown. That's Jaylen Brown's team. That's Jaylen Brown's team. And I think that Jason Tatum is starting to see that. He's trying to keep up. You know, he's trying to keep up with the narrative and stay with the flow of this is my team, but it's not your team. Because I was listening to the podcast of Nightcap with Ocho Cinco and Shannon Sharp. And the reason why I admired what Ocho Cinco is doing is because he's not a big basketball fan, but recently, because of his job with Nightcap, he's starting to have to kind of delve into the basketball realm a little bit more and watch more of basketball. And to me, I like his takes because he's coming from an objective stance. He doesn't have any emotional investment in basketball because he never watches it. He's not a big basketball guy. So when he was making his commentary, when he was giving his comment yesterday to Shannon Sharpe, he was like, wait, and you could see the purity on his face. Like, you can see the genuineness on his face as he spoke this, because body language and communication and verbal language are both put together to make sense when you're trying to read somebody. So I'm looking at his nonverbal cues, but I'm also paying attention to the words that are coming out of his mouth. So he's like, hold on. They say this is Jason Tatum's team, but every time I watch the games, it seems like Mr. Brown, he called him Mr. Brown. It's like Brown is the one that's doing most of the stuff. And then, but after the game, all the microphones are shoved in Jason Tatum's face. Even Ocho Cinco, who is not a basketball fan, with his own eyes, from an objective stance, from an objective lens, he can see that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the team. That doesn't mean that Jason Tatum is a bad player. It just means that when it's go time, when it's crunch time, and you need a timely bucket, Jaylen Brown. Jason Tatum is too inconsistent. I hate his game. Like, I don't know if I don't know. He just stays on the perimeter. He's too perimeter oriented. He stays on the perimeter way too long. Jaylen Brown would just blow by you and dunk on you. His handle may not be as good as Jason Tatum, but Jason Tatum's handle, to me, is more of an exercise in futility because it looks good, but it's not getting him anywhere. He could dribble, go between his legs, try to cross you, and then when he can't get by you, he just chunks up a three. Most of the time that he's going to miss. Jaylen Brown just literally blows by you. He just goes. He's north and south. He's north and south. It may not look as pretty as Jason Tatum's. And then Jason Tatum tries to do that little Euro. He tries to do that Euro step and come into the lane. And he gets busted up quickly and easily. A lot of the times if you body him, the ball just comes out of his hand. Or he comes up short in terms of scoring the basketball bunnies. The ball bounces off the rim. It doesn't go in. He misses layups. I don't understand. Like, he's not. I remember it was like in the fourth quarter. It was about 2 minutes and around 2 minutes and 18 seconds left, I believe. And Jason Tatum had the ball at the top of the key. And, you know, my kids are asleep at this time. I'm still watching the game. I'm trying not to be loud. And I'm like looking at the screen. I'm like, get the ball out of Jason Tatum. Get the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands. Get the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands. Get the ball. And no one got the ball out of his hands because I guess he thinks it's his team. So he does what he normally does. And I don't know who was guarding him at the time. I don't know who was guarding him. But he couldn't get past the guy, so he does what he always does. Sidestep three, brick. I'm like, come on. He's been doing this consistently through the playoffs. Then, and I hate when they flash his numbers. They're saying, oh, he has a comeback game. He played a horrible game yesterday. Yeah, did he? Is that the best game he's played in the series? Yes. But to me, his shot selection, his shooting percentage is horrible. Now, I need to probably look and see what his shooting percentage was. But there are plenty of shots that he shot that I'm like, what the F are you doing? See, I'm okay with the misses of Jaylen Brown because he's aggressive. And most of his shots are good shots. I'm not going to say the majority. I got to watch my words. I don't want to misspeak here. But more, okay, so when I look at Jason Tatum's game and I look at Jaylen Brown's game, when I'm looking at the kind of shots that both players shoot, when I look at Jason Tatum's shot, I'm looking, okay, he has more shots that are like, what the F are you thinking? Jaylen Brown doesn't have many shots like that. And now he's going to miss. I'm not saying he's 100% from the field. No one is. Even Michael Jordan wasn't 100% from the field. But I can live with the kind of shots that Jaylen Brown takes. I'm like, okay, I see. I don't think Jaylen Brown has gotten to the point where, and it's kind of sad to say this because he's a veteran. He's not a rookie. He's not a young player. Well, he's young, but he's been in the league several years. He should have picked up on this by now. When your shot is off, you have to do something else to ignite your offense. You guys may ask, like, what do you mean something else? Like draw fouls. That's what the great players can do. Look at what Luka does. He's very adept at drawing fouls. Look at what James Harden does. He's very adept at drawing fouls. He can lure you in and make you foul him. You say, why is that important? I'm going to tell you why that's important. It's very significant because if you go to the free throw line, you get to see the ball go inside the basket. It's a psychological game at that point. When you see the ball go through the basket, it makes you feel a little better. You start to play with a little bit more confidence. And then perhaps those free throws that you're making can ignite your offense, can make you play a little better on the offensive end. You have to be aggressive, but the defense of Dallas Mavericks against Jason Tatum was good. He said, like Jason Tatum said this in the interview of Game 2. He says something about law of averages. Eventually, his shots would start to fall. Yes, his shots fell more from the three, but he still missed. He's still too inconsistent to me. So that's 1 out of 3 games. So there's a 30. So let's break this down. Since Game 1 to Game 3, Jaylen Brown has been consistent all 3 games. The one good game that Jason Tatum has out of the 3, 1 out of 3, that's a 33% clip. That means that Jason Tatum is only efficient 33% of the time. That's not good. You cannot be the face of your franchise if your percentage of efficiency is that low. Jaylen Brown is efficient. Out of the 3 games, he's been efficient. He's played well all 3 games. He's 100%. But the one time that Jason Tatum plays well, they put both of their stats on the screen. They say Jason Tatum 31, Jaylen Brown 30. Now, you see how media still, like, they're still trying to push Tatum to be the face. You can't force him to be the face. The face of the franchise is the face of the franchise based upon what the people see and what the people want. Take it bets from Ocho Cinco. He's saying, hey, not just this game. Ocho Cinco was like, every game that I've seen Boston play, it seems like that Brown guy is the guy because he's more consistent. That's what separates the great players and the good players. Jason Tatum is very good, borderline great. I'm not taking anything away from him, but you cannot win a championship with him being your main guy. Fortunately for Boston, they have a lot of good players on the team. Okay, so they can. It doesn't matter. Jason Tatum can have an off night, they can win. Luka cannot have an off night. Luka has an off night, Boston's cooked. If the top 2 players for Boston, for Dallas, if one of the 2 has an off night, they're cooked. They're done. Whereas with Boston, Jason Tatum can have a horrible game and Boston can still blow you the hell out. Jaylen Brown can have a horrible game and Boston would still blow you the hell out. Devin White can have a horrible game and Boston will still blow you the hell out. You get the trend here? That means that the margin for error with Dallas is very slim. The margin for error with Boston is wide. So a lot of the times the stats are misleading because Boston wins consistently and Jason Tatum has good games in between and sometimes he has bad games. It makes it seem like the reason why Boston always wins is because they have a good player on their team, Jason Tatum. That's not the case. If you look at the stats, you would see that Jaylen Brown is the more consistent and more efficient player. And he's better defensively. He's the better player. I didn't used to think that. But you know what? Earlier in their career, because I think Jaylen Brown was drafted first and then Jason Tatum came to the team. Earlier in their career, Tatum was the better player. Jaylen Brown's handle was kind of His shooting wasn't that great. He's evolved. He's improved his game. He reminds me a lot of Dwayne Wade. And I don't use that comparison lightly. I'm very, very like intentional by saying that, because he's not very tall, he's not very long, but he's very aggressive. He's athletic. His mid-range game is superb. He's starting to get a back to the basket game, and he doesn't rush anything, and his handle has gotten a little bit tighter. He doesn't try to play around and do crossovers too much. He may go between his legs. It's like 1-2 dribble go, 1-2 dribble go. He's very consistent with that. He's not going to play with the ball. Tatum likes to play with the ball and look nice. And he looks good, but the ball doesn't go in the basket. Jaylen Brown's their best player. So going into Game 4, this is going to be desperate time for Dallas. I've been predicting that Dallas is going to win the series. I predicted that they were going to win Game 3. I know what the statistics says. No team has ever come back from being down 3-0. We get it. I'm not saying that Dallas is going to win a championship, but I cannot fathom them being swept. And if they do get swept by Boston, it would just add another layer to the greatness of this Boston team. They literally play with people. I don't think they even take basketball seriously. You say, how can you say that? They're in the NBA. What I'm saying is that it reminds me how Golden State used to be back then, when they were dominant. They'll have quarters where you're like, what the hell's going on? And all of a sudden, third quarter comes, they just blow you out the gym. They were a better second half team. They were better in the second half, particularly in the third quarter, than they were in any other quarter. So you can have a lead on Golden State, and after halftime they just blow you out of the water. And they sit Curry and Klay Thompson down for the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter because it's a blowout. Boston reminds me of that Golden State team. They do. They don't panic. Like, okay, we got it. That's why you'll see Jrue Holiday shoot a shot that was considered a bad shot by the female analyst that was calling the game last night. She was like, she didn't think that was a good shot. There was 14 seconds left on the clock. But they're confident. They're confident. They don't care. They don't play by normal NBA rules. They don't give a damn how many. They're going to shoot more threes than twos. And they're fine with that. But man, Boston's a good team. But I can't see Dallas getting swept. They at least got to get one game. Let's see. We'll see what happens. But if they can go back to Dallas and beat Dallas again in Dallas, then I've washed my hands clean. Like, this Boston team is amazing. They're amazing. But I'm not trying to take anything away. This is not a bash Jason Tatum commentary. I'm just saying that people need to stop saying that he's the best player on the team. I know it's hard because if people start to say that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the team, it totally implies that people who were saying that Jason Tatum was the best player didn't know what they were talking about. It's okay. People can shift. You can shift and change your mind. You don't have to keep sticking to your narrative and sticking to your story. I used to believe that Jason Tatum was, because he was at some point, he was their best player. But as of last year and this year, Jaylen Brown has taken over that team. But he does it with a degree of humility. He's not trying to take it from Jason Tatum. He's just taking it. And Jason Tatum has to respect it. I know the narrative was that Jason Tatum doesn't like the fact that Jaylen Brown is. No, he has to respect it, because both men have ego, but I think both men have a genuine respect for one another. But Jason Tatum is not an idiot. He sees what his teammate can do. So he's like, damn. During clutch situations, he seems to be a little bit more efficient than me. So you have to even tip your hat to your own teammate and say, you know what? You're the guy. You're the man. Jason Tatum will never publicly say that, but in his heart and in his mind, he believes that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the team. But he can't say that because he has to save face. The ego protects itself. He's not going to emasculate himself, because that makes him come across as weak and a non-competitor by him verbally admitting that Jaylen Brown is the best player on the team. He'll never do that, because he's carried that identification for so long. So for him to be the person to make that proclamation, that would not look good for him. And I wouldn't advise that he should do that. I wouldn't give him that advice either. But I just know that in his mind, he knows that already. But anyway, that's my take on the NBA Finals Game 3. I'm thinking that Dallas should win Game 4, but I would not be surprised if Boston sweeps them. But yeah, I will be surprised. Sweep Dallas? Ugh. Dallas was the upcoming team. Remember, people said they were playing well during the second half of the season. They made those trades. They became a better defensive team. They looked good in the Western Conference Finals. Luka looked literally unstoppable, but it seems like in this series, Coach Mazzulla is fine with just singling him. Not on a W. You're going to have to score 50 to 60 points. And they're making Luka work on the defensive end, and they're wearing him out. They're going at him. And that's fine. They say, you're going to make your shots. We're not going to stop you. You're Luka. You're going to get your shot off whenever you want. But just do know that you're going to have to score damn near 70 points for your team to win. Good luck with that. You're going to expend yourself so much on the offensive end that you're going to be spent on the defensive end, and then we're going to take advantage of you. That's a smart, because a lot of the times people say, well, Luka's a great offensive player, so he preserves his energy on the defensive end. Okay, you can't afford to do that against Boston, because Boston 1 through 5 are lethal. Horford can shoot threes. Jaylen Brown can shoot threes. Tatum, White, Drew Holiday, even that other guy that comes off the bench, that white guy that comes off the bench. Everybody can shoot threes. You don't have time to relax. There's no offensive player for Boston where you can just say, okay, I'm gonna just guard this guy because he's not a threat. Everyone on the floor is a threat. That's what makes them so lethal. So good luck, Luka. And that's why I think this series is not really favoring Luka right now, because statistically he's still Luka. I mean, they're not stopping him, but he's gonna have to have the game of his soul, the game of his life, for them to win a game, let alone win the damn series. But we'll see how it goes, guys. Thank you for indulging me for another talk, and I just wanted to give my commentary on Game 3 of the NBA Finals yesterday. And thank you for listening. Leave a comment. What do you guys think? Do you think that Dallas is going to get swept? Or do you think that Dallas is going to get at least 1 or 2 games in? What do you guys think? And do you think that Jaylen Brown is the better player? Do you think that Jason Tatum is the better player? Or do you think it's just they're 1A, 1B? On any given night, either one of them could be the better player. Or does it even matter who's the best player? Can we just say that they just have a good team? And I think Dallas, let me say this before I end the video. Just like when Steph Curry came in and it's not even a claim, it's a fact. He revolutionized the game because of the way he shot the 3 ball. The way the offense was ran at Golden State, it was free flowing. It was open lanes. It was spread, and they predicated a lot of their offenses on the 3, but they shot a lot of 2s as well. But they put so much pressure on you that if you tried to hug up on them on the perimeter, they would just blow by you and dish out and shoot 3s, or blow by you for layups. So they were highly efficient and very efficient from the 3-point line as well. So when you looked at the way Golden State played, a lot of teams try to copy that style, and the entire league started to shift and have a positionless basketball where it doesn't. 1 through 5, you have to be skilled. Gone with a bulky power forwards who just rebounded and set picks. Your power forward had to have a skill, passing or shooting. Everybody essentially has to become a 3-and-D kind of guy. You have to be able to shoot 3s and play defense. And shooting the 3 is a skill. Okay, so when I look at how Golden State revolutionized the game of basketball, especially with the emergence of Steph Curry and how he shot the ball, I'm thinking that same thing can happen with Boston, but in a different sense. I want you guys to follow me here. I think that in an era of the big 3, because people were always talking about who's your big 3, who's your main star on the team. I think Boston if they could become dominant, like they win this NBA Finals and win a couple more finals with the same unit, they're going to start to send a message that it's not about having one great player on your team. It's not about having the main player on your team. It's about collectively having a good team. Going back to the traditional roots of basketball, it's a team sport. And I think that for quite some time, for many, many years, even before LeBron decided to go join Miami, I think the league was moving to that he's the main guy on the team. To me, it was a very self-centered approach because it almost marginalized the rest of the parts of the team. Now, we understand that on every team there's always going to be a best player, but to highlight that player, to make it seem like that player represents the whole team, is disingenuous to the other parts of the team that are putting forth an effort to make the win happen. Because no matter how great Olajuwon was, if the 4 other players on the team didn't do their job, Olajuwon would not win a ring. no matter how great Michael Jordan was, I don't care if he scored 50 points a game. If the other players on his team didn't play their part, Michael Jordan would not win six NBA titles. He would not go 6 for 6 in the NBA Finals. Okay, so it's just very important how we use words to cast classifications and identifications towards a team. If you continue to say to yourself, this guy is the face of the team, don't do that. And I think Boston has if they can be dominant for the next couple of years, they're going to start shifting that narrative to say, look, GMs are going to start thinking, let's get a collective team that works together. You see what happened with Phoenix? They had their big three. How far did they go? It's not about having a big three. It's about having a big 5 or a big 12, having your whole team good. If you look at the way Indiana Pacers play, I like the way they play. We know Halliburton is their best player, but look how they spread the ball around. It's a total team effort. And I think that's where the league is moving to. And I think Boston is the poster child of that. They're just look at what they're doing to Luka Doncic and Kyrie. I mean, everybody said it. All the sports pundits said, even I said it. The best player of both teams, the best player in the series is Luka, hands down. If you take all the players for Boston, you take all the players for Dallas, if you ask me who's the best player, who's the one single player that's the best player from both teams, it would be Luka. Then if you say the second, you may say Jaylen Brown or Tatum, depending on who you feel is best, and then you can add Kyrie in there. So Kyrie would probably be a third. But the way Kyrie was playing, you could argue and say Kyrie would be number 2. So if you ask me, what 2 players can offensively are lethal enough to get their own shot at any time, it would be Luka and Kyrie. But how is that working in the NBA Finals? It doesn't matter. You know why? Because collectively, offensively and defensively, Boston has a better team. Team basketball will always beat individual talent. So that's my take on that. All right. Thank you guys for listening. All right. Bye. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think.